Welcome into the world of HTML. 3. Boot up your computer.
Windows sign in dialog.
2. Grab some comfort food. 1. And let's go. Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl Quinn here, and I'm back with another video in the HTML series. In this video, I will actually be introducing you guys to using CSS in your HTML documents. But before this video begins, please remember to like the video if you love the content, subscribe if you're new, and to turn on that notification bell to be alerted whenever I post the next video. Also note that the instrumentals for this video have been provided by Inner Sanctum Entertainment Ltd. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So for the past 10 videos in the series, I have been showing you guys how to use HTML to create and display various elements to the user on your web page. But what I didn't teach you is how to style those elements and make them look good. That is where CSS comes in. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and it's the language used to style and lay out your HTML elements. So how does it work, you may ask? To define how to display HTML elements, CSS uses rules. A CSS rule consists of a selector and a declaration block. To write a CSS rule, you first have to put the selector, then the declaration block. The selector points to the HTML element that you want to style. The declaration block is then surrounded by curly braces. You can get these braces by pressing Shift and either your left or right square brackets, which are to the right of the P. The declaration block can contain one or more declarations separated by semicolons. Each declaration includes a CSS property name and a value separated by a colon. Multiple CSS declarations are separated with semicolons. The basic syntax for a CSS rule is
selector left brace, 2 space property 1 colon, value semi, property 2 colon, value semi, no indent right brace.
And let me go through it by character.
S, E, L, E, C, T, O, R, space, left brace.
The second line.
Space, P, R, O, P, E, R, T, Y, 1, colon, space, V, A, L, U, E, semi.
And that's basically how the selector and the declaration is set up. Now, let's focus on the selectors. The selectors in CSS are used to select the HTML elements that you want to style. Now, there are many ways to do this, as there are various types of selectors in CSS. This is where you need to pay attention and listen closely. Firstly, the element selector. This type of selector selects the HTML elements based on their element name. This means that whatever rule you write will apply to the HTML element of that type in your HTML document. For example, if you want to write a rule that applies to all the heading level 1s in your HTML document, this is what you would do.
H1 left brace, 2 space property colon, value semi, no indent right brace.
Now let's move on to the next selector. Next, we have the ID selector. The ID selector uses the ID attribute of an HTML element to select a specific element. What is this ID attribute, you may ask? The HTML ID attribute is used to specify a unique ID for an HTML element. You cannot have more than one element with the same ID in an HTML document. The value of the ID attribute must be unique within the HTML document. The ID attribute is used to point to a specific style declaration in a style sheet. It is also used by JavaScript to access and manipulate the specific element with the specific ID. So it's like if you are in a school setting where each student has their unique ID. No student has the same ID. In HTML, to give an element a unique ID in its starting tag, you would use the ID attribute and you would assign the unique name as its value. For example,
ID equals quote my name quote.
Let's go through it by character.
ID equals quote M Y cap N A M E quote.
Note that the ID name must contain at least one character, cannot have any spaces, cannot start with a number sign, and must begin with a letter. Now let's get back to the ID selector in CSS. In order to select an element with a specific ID, type the number sign or hashtag, then the ID name of that element. For example, the CSS rule below will only be applied to the element with the ID my name.
Number my name left brace. 2 space property colon, value semi. No indent right brace.
And if I should go through that selector by character?
Number, M, Y, cap N, A, M, E, space, left brace.
Now let's move on to the next type of selector. Next, we have the class selector. The class selector selects HTML elements with a specific class attribute. What is the class attribute, you may ask? The HTML class attribute is used to specify a class for an HTML element. Multiple HTML elements can share the same class. If we continue with the analogy from above, each student has their own unique ID, but more than one student can belong to a class. The class attribute is often used to point to a class name in a style sheet. It can also be used by JavaScript to access and manipulate elements with a specific class name. To assign an element to a class, you would use the class attribute in the starting tag of that element, and you would put the name of the class as the value. For example,
class equals quote my class quote.
And if I should go through by character?
C, L, A, S, S, equals, quote, M, Y, cap C, L, A, S, S, quote.
HTML elements can also belong to more than one class. To define multiple classes, separate the class names with a space. For example,
class equals quote my class 1 my class 2 quote.
Let's go through by character.
C, L, A, S, S, equals, quote, M, Y, cap C, L, A, S, S, 1, space, M, Y, cap C, L, A, S, S, 2, quote.
Different HTML elements can also point to the same class name. This means that a H1 element and a paragraph element can be in the same class. Please note that your class names must begin with a letter. Now, let's get back to the class selector. To select elements with a specific class, type a period or full stop, then the class name. For example, all the elements in the boy class will be styled by this rule.
Dot boy left brace, 2 space property colon, value semi, no indent right brace.
And let's go through that selector by character.
Dot, B, O, Y, space, left brace.
You can also specify that only specific HTML elements should be affected by a class. In this example, only paragraph elements in the boy class will be styled by this rule.
P dot boy left brace, 2 space property colon, value semi, no indent right brace.
Let's go through that selector by character.
P dot B O Y space left brace.
Now let's move on to the next selector. Next, we have the universal selector. The universal selector selects all HTML elements on the page. This is represented by the asterisk or the star, as our screen reader calls it. For example, the rule below will affect all the elements in the document.
Star left brace, 2 space property colon, value semi, no indent right brace.
And let me go through that selector by character.
Star, space, left brace.
Now let's move on to our last selector. The grouping selector selects all HTML elements with the same style definitions. This is used to group all HTML elements that have the same styling as one. For example, if you want to bold both the heading level 1 and paragraph elements, you don't have to write 2 separate rules like this.
H1 left brace, 2 space property colon, value semi, no indent right brace, blank. P left brace, 2 space property colon, value semi, no indent right brace.
You can easily group them into one rule. To group selectors, separate each selector with a comma. So the code will be simplified to
H1, P left brace, 2 space property colon, value semi, no indent right brace.
And let's go through that selector by character.
H1, comma, space, P, space, left brace.
And those are the most commonly used selectors in CSS. You can view the others by going on the link in the description or in the transcript. Now let's move on to actually inserting CSS within your HTML documents. Now that you know how the CSS rule works, there are 3 ways that you can actually insert the CSS into your documents. You can do this by using external CSS, internal CSS, or inline CSS. First, let's look at internal CSS. As the name suggests, this is where the CSS code will be located within your HTML document. This method can be used if you're creating a website with only one page, or if a single page has a unique style. In order to do this, your CSS code must be placed in between an opening and closing style tag within the head section of your document. For example,
less head greater than, 2 space less style greater than, 4 space H1 left brace, 6 space property colon, value semi, 4 space right brace, 2 space less slash style greater than, no indent less slash head greater than.
Now let's move on to external CSS. As this name suggests, the CSS code will be located outside of the HTML document. This is ideal to use when you have a website with more than one page and they all share common styles. This is also great to separate your CSS from your HTML, which makes the code cleaner and more organized. An external style sheet can be coded in any HTML editor, but the file must be saved with a .css extension. In order to use an external style sheet, you would use the link element. All of your HTML pages will have to include a reference to the CSS file in the head section using this link element. For example,
less head greater than, 2 space less link rel equals quote style sheet quote href equals quote style.css quote greater than, no indent less slash head greater than.
Let's go through by character.
Space less l I n k space r e l equals quote s t y l e s h e e t quote space h r e f equals quote s t y l e dot c s s quote greater than.
So it is obvious that the link element is an empty element. Now in the example above, the rel attribute names a relationship of the linked document to the current document. So in this case, it is a style sheet. The href or href attribute is used to point to the location of the file. The URL can be both relative and absolute. In this case, the file is called style.css. In the actual CSS file, you would just write out the rules as normal, omitting the opening and closing style tags. Now let's move on to inline CSS. This may be used to apply a unique style to a single element. To use inline styles, we will add the style attribute to the relevant element. The style attribute can contain any CSS property. Here is a simple example.
Less h1 style equals quote property 1 colon value semi property 2 colon value semi quote greater than. This is a heading less slash h1 greater than.
Let's go through just that first part in the starting tag by character.
Less h1 space s t y l e equals quote p r o p e r t y 1 colon v a l u e semi p r o p e r t y 2 colon v a l u e semi quote greater than.
As you can see, this method can complicate the code and is not usually recommended. But what if you have multiple style sheets? If some properties have been defined for the same selector in different style sheets, the value from the last defined style sheet will be used. For example, if you set a rule in the external style sheet for the paragraph to have blue text, but in the internal CSS, you have a rule that says that the text for all paragraph elements should be yellow, if the external style sheet is defined before the internal CSS, the paragraph text will be yellow. However, if the internal CSS is defined before the link to the external CSS, the text for the paragraph elements will be blue. Please note, however, that inline CSS will overwrite both external and internal CSS. There is also another method to overwrite other CSS rules. This can be done by using the important property. This property will override all previous styling rules for that specific property on that element. The important property is represented by an exclamation mark followed by the word important. This is placed between the value of the property and the semicolon. For example,
P left brace, 2 space property colon, value important semi, no indent right brace.
Let's go through that by character.
P, R, O, P, E, R, T, Y, colon, space, V, A, L, U, E, space, bang, I, M, P, O, R, T, A, N, T, semi.
Also, an important note before we end this video. You may also want to use comments in your CSS code in order to let anyone reading it know what each block of code is doing. CSS comment starts with /* and ends with //. That is, it starts with the / followed by the asterisk and ends with the asterisk followed by the /. Any text placed in between these will be ignored by the browser. Of course, in internal CSS, these comments have to be in between the style tags. For example,
/* this is a single dash line comment */ /* this is a multi-dash line comment */.
And there you go. So that is it for our video, guys. We have now transitioned into using CSS in our HTML documents. I think I've taught you guys how to use a lot of the HTML elements already. So now it's time to get into actually styling them. Well, that is it for this video. Thanks again, guys, for watching. I always love to share this with you guys, and hopefully you enjoy the content. So remember, as usual, to like the video if you love the content, subscribe if you're new, and to turn on that notification bell to be alerted whenever I post the next video. And remember that I love you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.
This video was sponsored by
Presenting Not My Eyes, a non-profit organization catering for the blind and visually impaired community, founded by Annalie Bowen-Smith, a visually impaired model. Her aim is to showcase strength, independence, and beauty through fashion. Hence, the launch of the Not My Eyes fashion show. Each year, we select numerous women to participate in our annual fashion showcase, which gains attention from a variety of news media, magazines, and photographers. They go through a trail of auditions and even experience runway training from a model coach. From the DJ to the MC, every participant of the show is either partially or completely blind. We provide services such as mentorship to bring out the best in persons who lack self-esteem and confidence. We give these ladies a chance to shine despite their disabilities. They get the opportunity to take the stage with confidence, show off the work of talented designers, and most of all, give back to the community, all while proving that their disability does not limit them. So on the behalf of this organization, we are seeking monetary donations to support our cause and movement. Be a part of this move to promote beauty, confidence, and upliftment to those who underestimate their capabilities. Partner with us to help us pay for all of the expenses relating to our fashion show. You can find more information about us and how you can donate at notmyeyes.com. That is NOTMYEYES.com. Or you can email us at notmyeyesfoundation@gmail.com. Help us to keep shining bright as we walk by faith and not by sight.